The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. October 29th, you return to featherweight and you're facing Chase Hooper. A lot of people are going to look at this as a striker versus grappler matchup. Going deeper, man, what separates you from him?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things that separate me from him. I feel like my striking definitely separates me from him. I'm not saying that like he's a terrible striker or anything. I'm just saying I've been known for my striking and he's not. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying like he's finishing fights with his submissions. He's finishing his fights with his grappling. He has some good TKOs, but it mainly comes from like wearing him down grappling. So um, I think that kind of separates us a little bit. Obviously, he's 22. I'm 30. I have more experience. I have more fights. So I do think that like there's a couple things that do separate us, but those are probably the biggest that I can highlight.
Yeah, his style is no secret, and we've gotten to see him develop over the years inside that octagon. What have you seen from him that has impressed you?
One, he's very durable. So like he's very hard to put away. I think that he has a chin on him and stuff, and um man, like you can tell he's not a dumb kid. Like you just can tell, like he's thinking in there. He's problem solving, which all of us are problem solvers in the cage. And I think he does that pretty well. I do think that like there's still holes in his game that are going to eventually be closed up, but because he's still fresh, he's going to make mistakes. I've been doing this for 15 years and I still make mistakes. So nothing really against him. It's just part of the process, really.
You had a similar situation with Bellator earlier in your career that he has with the UFC right now. What did you learn most from those fights?
I kind of know. I didn't know I had issues until I had to like actually figure it out honestly in the middle of the fight sometimes, which was like not something I was really dealing with like in training, where like back in the day I'd honestly get like held against the cage, or my footwork and my movement and everything like that I thought was um, pretty much preventing me from getting hit, which I didn't really take very much damage, but it ended up getting me stuck on the cage because people couldn't catch me or they couldn't hit me, so they get frustrated and they would just pretty much just either lay and pray or they'd lean against the cage and you're dirty boxing off the cage. And that's really the only way I've ever really lost is those type of ways. And I think those fights early on in the career forced me to grow. And so we had to develop a little bit different style, especially being at 35. I was very, very tall for my weight class. Most of my fights were there, and I fought a lot more shorter people. Now that I'm going to 45 and 55, they're a little bit taller, stronger, they hit harder. Um, some things I took into account, some things I didn't, but those are some of the things that I faced, and I think that he's kind of on that same path. I was that kid a few years ago, man, if not more, and I got a lot of respect for him, and I've been kind of a fan, anyways. I like to watch. I always liked underdogs. I like those type of people, and he's been one, and I think his career is gonna go far. It's gonna be a speed bump facing me.
Yeah, a lot of people had written him off, really early. Like he had a win, then he had a loss, and when you lose one time, people are just like already jumping off the bandwagon, so to say. It's
Oh, you
this
suck.
this
Like
game
as soon
model.
as yeah, you lose, you suck. Like that's how it is. Like in this sport, like that's how spectators view us. They're like, oh, he's so good. He's overrated. Oh, he's not as good as we thought. Like athletes are so um judged off of just like certain things, and we're humans. We make mistakes. Like we're just people, just like them. The difference is that like we were brave enough to chase dreams. We were brave enough to step in front of thousands and millions of people, being watched all over the world, and get to do it. And what sucks about our sport is if you mess up, it's detrimental, to your career, embarrassing. You know what I mean? But when you win, it's one of the highest highs you'll ever feel. So, um, it's bittersweet, and it kind of
It
sucks,
is.
but it's what
It
it
is.
is.
Other sports, let's say you're a pitcher, someone hits a home run off of you. It's a highlight, but it's not like, you go to the next guy, the next batter comes up and
Yeah.
right away, you can erase that by striking the dude out. But in this sport, it's not like that. You become a meme, you become a highlight reel, which can be used over and over. It does. People don't think that deep into it, man. I wish they would.
When I like, because I used to be part of like team sports. I used to play baseball. I used to play football. I'll just use me for example. I used to play first base. If I ever missed like a grounder or I kind of messed up, I had an outfielder behind me, and he could,
Yeah.
back me up. And there, if I fall down because I got hit, no one's gonna back me up. I have to get up, or the ref's gonna stop it, or he's gonna stop it. So it's a whole lot different than having a team sport. You're in there with another guy trained to kill you, another guy to train whoever that person is. Uh, they're gonna they're gonna dictate whether that person is losing the fight or winning the fight, and it should be stopped. So
Yeah, how wild would it be if this sport eventually evolved into like a team sport? Like you could like if you got knocked down, you could just tag your teammate in and then he fights.
this has always been like a thought of mine. So it's cool that you thought about that. I don't know, like this is just like a shot out of a cannon, but I would like to do like almost like a team sport, but like you have, let's say, like a fight every month, but you're facing like gyms or like even like states that are backing these fighters, but you have every weight class. So let's say like you have 12 fights, you have 12, one person from each weight class, and it's
Yeah.
like New Mexico versus Florida. Whoever wins that, whoever wins all out of all the matches, they win that series or whatever. I don't know. I always thought
It's
about
like
it like that.
March
That'd be
Madness.
cool.
It's kind of like what you're saying is like March Madness for fighting, where
Kind of.
states face states and it's a huge bracket but it's an idea, man, but man, it's crazy enough to just have like one event. You know the behind the scenes, man. There's so much that
Yeah.
goes into putting on events but hey, you never know what this fight game will evolve into in like 10, 15, 20 years. So it could be an idea we
Yeah.
might be talking about right now, and it happens 50 years from now, and right now we're crazy people, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just like they thought when UFC was getting started that it was, the wildest idea and it's not going to work. And now we're the fastest growing sport in the world, and people probably watch our sport more than others.
Yeah, no doubt. You revealed that you had an injury going into your last fight. How difficult was it to manage the injury traveling across the world?
I didn't really want to talk about it too much, but it was, I had a couple hairline fractures in my collarbone. So, you just have to figure out a way. It didn't really, you know, work out for me. And I thought I was like good enough to go out there and try to compete. And then uh, things happen.
Yeah,
This is a very unforgiving sport, and yeah, that night was very unforgiving for me. So it's being taken care of, and I'm honestly I can say that I'm much more healthier, and we're good to go. You know what I mean? I know like back in the day, like people weren't aware of it, but obviously we're not gonna talk about it.
yeah,
You know, but I'm better now.
yeah. It's different when you're going to Vegas from New Mexico compared to like going from New Mexico to the other side of the world and you're in
Yeah,
an airplane. I mean, hairline fractures, people don't want you to fly if you have like a broken orbital or whatever, right? Because
yeah,
they're worried. Did you have pain in your
yeah. I
collarbone when you were
couldn't, I
flying?
couldn't, I couldn't throw my whole right side, uh, weeks leading to the fight, but luckily, UC has such a great team out there, and the massage therapist, she was able to get me to like actually move it, and I could actually kind of throw a little bit better. There's not like much to it, but you just couldn't tell that it was like completely injured. So I mean, in a way, like it was usable. It wasn't a tool that I'm used to having, but um, bro, things
You
happen.
masked it so well because I was in Singapore and I saw you walking around before the fight and like you did the media stuff and everything, and it's just like you couldn't tell anything, man. It was fighters, they could hide stuff so well.
You should practice your poker face almost every single day because we're in the hurting business, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious because in training it's almost ironic because I'm training to hurt you without hurting you with pads on, so that we can keep hurting each other. It's so weird, but
It is.
you have to develop a good poker face, and any fighter that goes to like an event and they're dying and like they can't move or what, I'm like, bro, like just either you're asking for attention or you probably really shouldn't compete. So um, regardless, like I went out there still trying to win, and he was a better man that day. So kudos to him. I still feel like 9 out of 10 times I beat that guy, and that one time he got me. So it is. I
Yeah.
have to. I have two options. I can let it bother me, or I can move on, get better from it, and I chose that route.
Nothing but respect, man, for doing that, man.
Thank you.
9 out of 10 dudes would pull out. I guarantee it. And I would not even be mad. You know what I mean? I'd be like, you explain like what happened. You pull out. Hey, respect, man. Get back
Yeah.
into the training room, recover, and do your thing. Training camp. Jackson Wick. Are there other spots that you train at?
Well, that's like my main training spot now. I used to train at a boxing gym. It was called Dana Morales Hideout, but I haven't been there recently. His dad had died, and he had kind of just been struggling with that. So Jackson Wink has been my main gym place I'm at. And then if I'm not there, I'm at my house. I have a home gym at my house, and I have teammates that come out to my gym, and I do my training conditioning out of my house and my garage and stuff. And it's cool. The money that I've made over the sport, over the time is just I invested in myself. So I just pretty much I always wanted to make sure I always had a spot to train at. So I have mats, I got bags, uh, I got a airdyne bike, I got weights, I got box jumps, dummies, you name it, speed bags, everything. I have everything. So blessed enough to have that, and I never have an excuse to not train. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah, it's right out a few steps from your bedroom. Huh?
Yeah,
It's definitely no
yeah.
excuses. Um, you're going from that arena crowd in Singapore to the UFC Apex, right? I don't even know if they're going to allow people in anymore because they're talking about they're doing that VR metaverse stuff at the Apex. So it'll be quiet. You're able to hear everything. You're even able to hear the people's feet moving, which is crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
How does that benefit a fighter?
It There's pros and cons to it. So like I fought Contender Series, and when I fought Charles Ontiveros, like it was at the Apex, and it was very quiet. Some people were allowed in. The only thing I don't like about the Apex is that like I can't have my family come out. They don't let me like bring my family out, which I don't understand why, because there's always like empty seats. But it's not my problem, I guess. Or I guess it is my problem. It's not a bun to them. But I think that it benefits you in the sense like everything's clear. But there's just something about having a crowd and you feel the energy. And sometimes people are shouting your name. People are shouting from what country you're from. They just knowing people just are like behind you, just in the moment. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And when you're in a very quiet situation, um, it's like weird in the sense that I can hear exactly what they're coaching, their fighter, and my instructions. And you have to get really good at your codes and stuff like that if you have those. So like I said, it's has both, pros and cons to it. And I think that you can look at it in certain ways. You can hate it and probably not do well, or you can just accept it and it's like, it is what it is. Like I just, listen to my coaches, and I do what I do every single day, and I just do it that one night and just do it to the best of my ability.
Big stakes, man, in this fight coming up against Chase Hooper. How do you envision yourself performing?
I always envision myself winning. Like
Mhm.
I like if we have to bring out the dog, we bring out the dog, man. Like he's so tough, and like I give him a lot of props for that, because being a young dude, you have to be, because people don't take you seriously. They don't think that you're a good fighter. They don't think that you're as good as you think you are. And that's probably why I really like Case Hooper, is because um, that specific reason. I knew what that felt like. You know, you don't look like a fighter. You don't have to look like a fighter. I'm an athlete, um, and I can do a lot more than most people. And you have this mentality that like most people don't have, and so it's cool to see that in him. I know I have it in me, and as long as I have, air in my body, I'm gonna fight till I don't. And I think he has that. So you could see a dogfight. You could see a dogfight. At the end of the day, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure my hand is raised.
October 29th, UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas. If you want to know more about the event, go download the AllStar app in the descriptions. Thank you, Steve, for the time. It is going to be a dog fight, man. Chase Hooper, he's a dog,
Yeah.
dude. The dude
There you
doesn't
go.
go away
I'm just
easy.
I'm warning you, man. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. It's gonna be good, and that's one to watch. I mean, I'm just saying, man.